In the world of ancient Greece, the gods ruled every aspect of life, but none were as feared as Hades, the stern and shadowy brother of Zeus and Poseidon. Hades governed the underworld, a mysterious realm where the souls of the dead would go. From the mightiest heroes to the most wicked kings, everyone eventually faced Hades's judgment. Those who angered him, or the gods of Olympus, faced eternal punishments that struck fear into the hearts of mortals. But Hades wasn't always the lord of the underworld. His journey to power was filled with challenges and battles. The earth wasn't always ruled by the gods we know. Before them, the Titans, powerful beings born from earth and sky, controlled the world. Among them was Cronus, the strongest of the Titans, who fathered 6 children with his sister Rhea. These children would later be known as the Olympian gods. Cronus, fearing a prophecy that one of his children would overthrow him, swallowed each one as they were born. But Rhea managed to save the youngest, Zeus, hiding him away until he was strong enough to challenge his father. When Zeus grew up, he returned to confront Cronus, forcing him to vomit up his siblings. United, the gods waged a decade-long war against the Titans, a battle so intense it nearly destroyed the world. The gods had powerful allies: the Cyclopes, master craftsmen, who forged Zeus a thunderbolt, Poseidon a trident, and Hades a helmet of invisibility. With these weapons, they defeated the Titans and imprisoned them deep in the earth, in a place called Tartarus. After their victory, the 3 brothers, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, divided the world. Zeus claimed the sky, Poseidon took the seas, and Hades was given the underworld, the realm of the dead. Hades wasn't just the ruler of the dead, he was also the keeper of all the wealth buried beneath the earth: gold, silver, and precious gems. The Romans later called him Pluto, meaning the wealthy one. Despite his immense power, Hades didn't have control over death itself. That role belonged to Thanatos, the spirit of death, who guided souls to the underworld. When a mortal died, Thanatos would separate their soul from the body, and Hermes, the messenger god, would lead it to the underworld. There the soul would meet Charon, the ferryman who guided the dead across the River Styx, which separated the living from the dead. Only those who had been buried with a coin for payment could cross. Those without would wander the shores for 100 years. Once across, the souls would face judgment at the gates of the underworld. Guarded by the fearsome 3-headed dog, Cerberus, the judges of the underworld would examine each soul's life, determining their fate. There were 3 possible destinations: the peaceful fields of Asphodel, the joyful paradise of Elysium, or the dark and torturous depths of Tartarus. Most souls ended up in the fields of Asphodel, a place for those who had lived average lives, neither particularly good nor evil. Here, they would dwell in a state of neutrality until they were ready to be reborn. The truly virtuous, like heroes and those favored by the gods, were sent to Elysium, a place of eternal happiness. In Elysium, they enjoyed endless feasts, games, and celebrations, free from the burdens of life. The darkest place, Tartarus, was reserved for the worst offenders, those who had defied the gods or committed unforgivable crimes. Here, they endured endless torment, watched over by Hades himself. Hades was known to design particularly fitting punishments for each soul, ensuring that their suffering matched their crimes. One of the most famous tales of punishment is that of Sisyphus, a man who tried to cheat death and trick the gods. For his cunning, he was condemned to push a boulder up a hill for eternity, only for it to roll back down every time he neared the top. Another well-known story is that of Tantalus, who was punished with eternal hunger and thirst. He stood in a pool of water with fruit hanging above him, but whenever he tried to drink or eat, the water would recede and the fruit would rise out of reach. But Hades wasn't just a god of punishment. He also played a vital role in maintaining balance in the world. Without his rule over the underworld, the cycle of life and death would be disrupted. The Greeks believed that by respecting Hades and the dead, they could ensure that the natural order of the world continued. Hades was not only feared for his punishments, but also for his deep connection to the natural wealth of the earth. All the riches beneath the ground, gold, silver, and precious stones, belonged to him. This wealth gave him the name Pluto, the wealthy one, among the Romans. But while he was incredibly powerful, Hades was not considered an Olympian god because he rarely left his dark domain. Hades' realm was so vast that he needed help to govern it. He enlisted the Furies, fierce goddesses who punished crimes, especially those involving family betrayal. The Furies were relentless, chasing down those who had committed terrible acts, driving them to madness before dragging them to the underworld. The underworld itself was a complex place with many regions. The Fields of Mourning were where those who had died of broken hearts wandered, forever mourning the love they had lost. Among these tragic figures was Queen Dido of Carthage, who took her own life after being abandoned by the hero Aeneas. Her story is one of many that illustrated the deep sorrow found in the underworld. In another part of the underworld was the Land of Dreams, an island where Morpheus, the god of dreams, ruled. Every night, Morpheus and his brothers would send dreams to both mortals and gods, sometimes pleasant and sometimes terrifying. These dreams could inspire great deeds or warn of dangers to come. But the true power of the underworld rested with Hades, who lived in a grand palace deep within the earth. His domain was surrounded by fire and guarded by his loyal subjects. Hades was a solitary figure, rarely leaving his dark kingdom, and those who sought him out without invitation often found themselves lost in the labyrinthine halls of the dead. Yet even Hades, with all his power, grew lonely. He decided that Persephone, the beautiful daughter of Demeter, goddess of the harvest, would be his queen. One day, as Persephone was picking flowers, the ground opened beneath her, and Hades abducted her, taking her to the underworld to be his bride. Demeter, heartbroken over the loss of her daughter, searched for her tirelessly. Her grief was so great that she neglected her duties, and the earth plunged into a barren winter. Crops failed, and humanity faced starvation. Finally, Zeus intervened, ordering Hades to return Persephone to her mother. But Hades, cunning as always, had tricked Persephone into eating a pomegranate seed, binding her to the underworld. To save the world, Zeus struck a compromise. Persephone would spend 9 months of the year with her mother, bringing spring and summer to the world. But for the remaining 3 months, she would return to Hades, causing winter, as Demeter mourned her absence. This myth explained the changing of the seasons to the ancient Greeks. With Persephone by his side, Hades became a more complex figure. He was not just the stern ruler of the dead, but also a husband and partner. Together, they ruled the underworld, with a mix of justice and mercy. One of the most famous tales from their reign is that of Orpheus, a musician who loved his wife, Eurydice, deeply. When Eurydice died, Orpheus journeyed to the underworld to bring her back. Orpheus's music was so beautiful that it moved even Hades. The god agreed to let Eurydice return to the living, but on one condition: Orpheus must not look back at her until they had both left the underworld. Just as they were about to reach the surface, Orpheus, overcome with emotion, glanced back, and Eurydice was lost to him forever. This story served as a lesson in patience and self-control. Hades, though often seen as a dark and unforgiving god, played a crucial role in maintaining the balance of the world. His rule ensured that the dead were honored and the natural cycle of life and death continued. Despite his fearsome reputation, Hades was a god who demanded respect rather than worship, embodying the inevitability of death and the importance of justice in the ancient world.